I'm nearly at a loss for words. This season has been madness, absolute madness. I don't know how you guys took that episode, but episode 5 was insane.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
yes. So
Wow.
just out the gate. It seems we're a bit speechless. So let's put into images how we felt, guys. I think we're all in agreement. This is how we felt
Yeah.
at the end of that episode.
That was me by the end of it. When it ended, I'm like, I can't believe it's already over. Give me the next fucking episode right fucking now.
So
We're
good.
doing this again. Man.
There's only one left, guys. That's the first thing I was telling you. Telling BC, it's only one left. I mean, honestly, this is
Yeah.
killing me.
And
Like-
and that's the thing is so much story has been told, and as of now, we only have one episode left. And like episode 5 had a lot of dialogue. We'll go through all the episode together, but I don't. It just doesn't feel like it can end in one more episode. That's how I felt. at
And
the
not a
end of it.
cliffhanger.
Yeah.
According to what we're told, is I'm not saying that there's not going to be a status quo shakeup,
Yeah.
which I believe we'll discuss. I'm sure in our at the end cap, but it's not supposed to be a cliffhanger,
Mm.
so it won't leave us like last time. Like what are we? What
Yeah.
you know, with the shock. So I mean, I don't want it to end. That's it.
Yeah.
I
They-
want these crews to I want to see them in other movies and everything.
The thing is, I find the way the season's been wrapping up, like 6 episodes actually felt like a good pacing. It's not
Yeah.
like a lot of the other Marvel shows like Secret Invasion or whatnot, when they're ending, I'm kind of like, there's only one left. Like, how are we gonna finish this whole thing? This one, I'm like, okay, one left. I could believe it. Like, wow, what a story. They took good time with it, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
for sure, dude. Episode 5 was a banger. Chiapet, you were just about to say something.
I think the creatives behind this are more.
Talented.
No, I don't think like I think that there was look, the creatives behind this are the same people as Moon Knight. You know, I think they're just more used to working in the story structure of a television show.
Yeah.
Where I think a lot of times, because of Marvel before the strike, actually, they were using more of a movie type thing to get the 6 episodes or whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
I think the funny thing is, I think the last one that sounded and felt like a show, but got the most blowback. Well, actually, no, it got the most blowback from weird hardcore online people, but the ratings were through the roof. Maybe just because of the name cachet. Was She-Hulk. That
Yeah.
felt episodic. So, and again, I think he was a writer from Rick and Morty, and I think the Rick and Morty writer here is the same one. So they're more used to
No, I think they're
episodic.
2 different writers. I think.
There are 2 different writers, but they're still from the Rick. They write episodic television, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think they're more used to it, that structure, than, for instance, who was it that did Hawkeye or did Falcon and Winter Soldier? Even though Falcon and Winter Soldier, we know that
Yeah.
there was issues with the pandemic and it was hard to film certain things. So
And they had a pandemic storyline they cut out apparently.
Yeah, they cut out. Those issues, obviously. Yeah,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I just feel like it's done like Anthony said. You're getting a full story,
Yeah.
and the ideas that were brought up in episode 1 are still there. The Ouroboros, what Loki wants, and everything is focused on how it changes Loki, which is also something I'm loving. It's not just thrown away like people always complain about. Filler episodes and that, but no, they're changing Loki.
Yep.
It's
Completely.
pushing him.
Completely, especially from episode 1, from season 1, and of course Avengers 1. But let's get into the episode. Episode 5, like I said, was an absolute banger. A little, it didn't leave us on a cliffhanger. If anything, it got us ready to take on episode 6. By the end of it, I felt like I was ready to even start doing my thing, Loki's way, right? And we'll talk about exactly what Loki did. So let's get into the episode. Right out the gate, where did we take off? We took off exactly where we left off in episode 4. The big same blinding lights from the explosion last week. And Loki's alone in that room this time, right? So he's walking around with no one there and briefly starts to glitch and slip, right? You saw he makes his way to where that interrogation room was, that very infamous room, especially after the last episode.
Goddamn Miss Minutes, goddamn her.
Yeah, man. Dude, the internet went wild. The amount of memes that I had seen because of that one scene was absolutely incredible.
Madness.
Yeah, but so we're in front of that room, right? And we see Loki, and he's glitching. I guess we'll call it glitching, slipping. But he does end up finally slipping. And where does he slip to? He's in a room with Loki. Yeah, another Loki who's reading the TVA book. Says hello, and he slips again to where he was, which is right in front of that interrogation room. Now, this time, with the time slip and everything, he ends up back where he was. Like I was saying, he makes his way to that room where he saw Loki, and you kind of see where we're going with this, right? He's now in that future, that brief future he slipped to, and there's behind him the Loki from the past, right? So the time playing happening out the gate on this episode is kind of trippy. And this time he hears the hello, says hello back, and what ends up happening? Well, he slips, hit the opening credits. Here we are. So Loki's kicking off in a very trippy manner. I loved it. And speaking of Loki saying hello, let's give a quick hello to some of the people here in the chat. We got Cliff, who was just on with me on Sunday. Cliff, awesome gentleman, love this man, and appreciate you swinging by. Yeah,
what's up?
My brother's in the house. Yes, man. He messaged me immediately after the show saying, dude, it's got me going bananas. RP is in the house. Comic Nation, of course, guys, definitely check out Comic Nation. Get your FOC orders in, and don't forget to use Black Round for a 5% discount code. Letheros in the house. But yeah, okay. Let's get back into it. So right out the gate, you guys, did you feel that trippiness, the time slipping? We saw that time slipping was key to that moment of what happened in episode 4, right?
It's funny because the minute I saw that other Loki, like reading the book, I'm like, which episode was that from? And I'm thinking, and then I'm like, oh wait, I think it hasn't happened yet. And then when he pulls up and he's reading the book, I'm like, he's about to see himself tripping. So I thought that was a pretty funny moment. It was a cute little thing.
I think that those scenes are to inform us, to show what's happening, right? The device that they're going to use. I think pretty much, and what's essential. So I mean, I think that was cool. The fact that but also the essential part is that they want to show us also the dissolving, because I believe it ended with the dissolving, right? They're trying to show us that everything's dissolving. It isn't just a branch. Something that exists outside of time is also dissolving. Like it's all coming apart.
Now, hold on. We're going to use a different term on this show today, because for myself, I was calling it the spaghetti the whole time. Everything was turning to spaghetti. And yes, right before the Loki credit scene, the letter screen where Loki, the intro, the room starts turning into that spaghetti, right? And we recently got like that little clip that came out right before the show dropped, where we saw, thank you for your service type thing, and everything was turning to spaghetti. And so I thought that was cool, man.
I thought that the whole effect is good. I mean, I think I was telling you guys before how I think actually, to be honest with you, I found the effects in this show, and even though it's cheaper than it costs less per episode than Secret Invasion, I don't understand how much better it looks. I think maybe it's lighting and settings that happen. I
think Secret Invasion they shot twice, so that also didn't help with the budget. Just ballooned it like it was nothing compared to this, where they didn't have to reshoot anything.
Supposedly they didn't reshoot not even a scene,
nothing.
Right? Like not even one scene was reshot. But then again, you have like pros like Owen Wilson, those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Hyper's in the house, man. Appreciate you bringing by. But okay, so the room turned. What was the term you used?
Spaghetti? Or
I used spaghetti. You said something way more proper.
You know what? I'm in a chat with 2 Italians, and I'm an avid fan of pasta. So we're going with spaghettifying. Spaghettifying.
The spagoops.
Spaghettifying everything tonight. But all right. So after the Loki opening scene, we end up slipping now. Well, not slipping. We end up seeing. We're in a jail cell, right? And Casey's like hiding under a bed. He reveals a secret passage to escape with 2 other inmates that were waiting for him. So there was a door in that little room where he kind of made a little hole there. And this is a branched timeline.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool because where Casey's breaking out at this point in time, it actually happens to be San Francisco in 1962. And yes, that's Alcatraz. I know my brother's here in the chat. He actually went to visit Alcatraz in San Francisco, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so Loki pops up at that point in time, but Casey has no idea who he is, right? In fact, the guys were saying he had a different name. I forgot what the name was.
Was it Frank?
Probably Frank. We'll say Frank. We're going super Italian here tonight.
Yeah,
but,
I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
Doug was Mobius. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
basically Casey is going to set sail with those two other guys escaping Alcatraz. So Loki's there. He has that brief exchange with him, and he slips again, right? Loki slips again, and this time, where does he go to? McDonald's. Yeah, McDonald's, man, with their promos. They're getting me. They're getting me. I want those nuggets right now. But yeah, then he slips to that moment, like that point in time at McDonald's, slips again in front of the jet ski store, and then slips again to an orange room that said 25 Time Theater on the wall. I don't know if you guys caught that. So lots and lots of time slipping happening out the gate within the episode, but we're then taken to New York City in 2012, and B-15 is a doctor or a nurse. I think she was a doctor. But yeah, this is again a branched timeline, by the way. So all these are branched timelines. She's helping a little girl with like a broken arm. But Loki time slips in front of her, and that was pretty funny, man. That moment was epic. He time slips in front of her, and then slips again. She's completely tripped out, has absolutely like no idea what's happening. And we get from that scene to one of the funniest scenes so far in the series, in my opinion, and it was we finally got the moment of Mobius on a jet ski. And did you hear the music behind it?
So good.
It was hilarious. So we see Mobius on the jet ski, and at this point in time, I believe it was Cleveland, Ohio, 2022. Yeah, there you go. And the colleagues that are there working with him are calling him Don, and that his son is calling the store. He's like on line 3 or something. But Loki time slips to the front of the store. And what was even more funny, sorry, I think we got 2 funny scenes out of this, was he time slipped in front of, those balloons?
Yes.
And he time slips in the same manner as the thing. I couldn't breathe. I literally had to hit pause because I was laughing so hard.
That caught me so off guard. I was dying of laughter. I love that.
So many,
a simple visual gag that just worked so well for me.
It was so good. But then Loki goes in. Mobius, or if you want to call him Don at this point, has no idea who he is either. So that scene for me was pretty funny. I think, the time slipping, and we knew at this point in time, especially that it's branch timelines, no one would really know who Loki was. But it was interesting to see some of those little exchanges. For me, it was those 2 scenes: Mobius on the jet ski and the floaty thing. I was finished. I don't know what you guys thought.
No, I really did enjoy this sequence, and you're kind of like, the minute you saw Casey, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going back, and we're gonna see what all these guys actually did in their lives. Like, Casey was a criminal, which I was like, it's funny because he says, I'm gonna get gutted like a fish, which is what Loki tells him in season 1. He doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
So that was a cool callback.
Yeah.
Then, I thought because she was a doctor in 2012 in New York, I'm like, oh, cool. Are we revisiting the Battle of New York again? No, completely wrong. Terrible guess. Not even close. So, and then, Mobius, that scene, it was funny to me. Just, I didn't realize, like, I figured, it would be connected to jet skis, but he literally sells them. I'm like, oh, okay, that is not what I thought his past life was going to be.
Yep.
I don't know if you noticed that in the time when he was doing the time slipping, he went to the McDonald's. He went to the interrogation room where I think was B-15, and he went to the jet ski place. So it was kind of precursing to where his heart was pulling him to go to, right? What he wanted. So what resonated he had with B-15, I think, was the interrogation room, if I'm not mistaken. Mobius being at the Piranha Sports, and
also the theater room. The theater room from season 1, where he watches his whole life play out. That's where
that's what B-15. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, the theater room.
No, isn't that what Mobius?
Oh, maybe. But I thought
B-15
maybe
was the interrogation room.
Oh, there was both there. They showed both.
Yeah.
Okay,
then they had showed the theater room, like the ball.
Yeah,
that's why I was like, oh, it was a good callback.
Also, the fact that he had a setup to sell jet skis to people by putting a fan there to me, when these people could experience it when they get on there.
What's hilarious.
Because he loves jet ski so much and nobody's buying them is incredible. Shout out to the jet ski being a Bombardier later on in the thing. MTL represent. That's all the way
I
there.
noticed that too. I love it.
But I just the one thing I could say, I think the small critique is, by the time you went to see Mobius, you could have figured out that they don't know him. You know, he's like, you don't know me either. Like, you know, but it was a good gag because what happens later on when somebody. So it was a setup for that. I think maybe more that I could say. Again, for me, it all comes down to the delivery by the actors and the script.
Yep.
Just the way he's trying to, his earnest way of trying to talk to him about how much he means to him, and then realizing the guy doesn't know anything about him. Jared's completely right on that take. We'll talk more about it later on, but 100% Jared's right on that.
Yep.
So I love the slow build up from a lesser character like what do you call it? Casey, then to B-15, and then to Mobius, and you're starting to say, okay, these people mean things more to him, and then after a while, obviously we'll go for the next step. But I love that slowly build up, and going to Casey, and the Alcatraz moment was great. I had heard about it, and then when I saw it, I was so disappointed that I even saw the still, and I heard the rumor, because it added so much to it when you saw it. So that's kind of it would have been better if I was surprised for that, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, and on that point, I actually have to agree that I feel like we got a little too many, videos and little shorts and sneak peeks and all that stuff for what's to come for the next 2 episodes, in my opinion. Not that it really took away from what we got, but I feel like Marvel put out a little much, but they didn't give away anything that was major within this episode.
No, at all. I agree, but I agree with what you're saying. 100%.
I dodged everything. I've been avoiding everything. I just don't want to see nothing when it comes to this show. I'd rather not.
Rightfully so, man. So moving on within the show, we finally get to the person that I was most concerned about for some weird reason, but it's in Pasadena, 1994. We get Obi in a bookstore, which was a pretty funny and we had sad scene.
Yes.
He's in the bookstore and he's trying to buy his own book. Brings it to the cash, it's not ringing, but yes, he wrote a sci-fi book that the store is refusing to sell. The store owner is like, the cashier is like, it's not ringing up. And then the store owner comes and she's like, oh, you again? Like I told you, we're not going to sell your book type thing. So pretty funny exchange at that point. But so he ends up leaving, ends up dropping his books like the big klutz that he is. But makes his way out, and he ends up, we see he's now at a warehouse at this point. That looks very similar as well to the shop that he has at the TVA.
Yeah, exactly.
Copy paste at that point. But Loki time slips there, right? In that warehouse, mortifying Obi at that point. Now, when he time slips there, Loki pretty much explains everything. And we didn't get to see that exchange, right? Like it cuts because obviously he has a lot to bring Obi up to speed on. But they have their exchange. Now, Obi explains to Loki that Loki should be able to control his time slipping, right? Because there was talks of the time slipping. Now, when they have that exchange, like I said, he was telling him that he should be able to control the time slipping, but Obi says that, for what he's looking to achieve, he needs to get the band back together. And he used that little cup with the pens example, which was pretty funny. And there was that moment where, Loki was starting to feel motivated at the end, and then Obi's like, well, no, because there's more to it type thing. So I found that to be funny as well. But basically what he's saying is he's got to get the band together. Every one of his friends basically has a temporal aura, right? And Loki needs to get them all back to that place in time. So that was a pretty interesting thing. Now I could see at this point in the episode where they're going with this. Loki asks if he can build the tempad, right? So when he's asking him to build the tempad, Obi's like, well, it would take a lifetime, right, without the knowledge. So Loki gives him the TVA handbook, right? And at that point, Loki time slips. So I really enjoyed the exchange there with all of them. But what was even funnier is that when Loki time slips, he ends up at Mobius's lawn, right? So, well, sorry, across the street from Mobius's lawn. So he sees now. We're seeing that Mobius, single father, 2 kids. He's not really got everything under control, but he somewhat has things under control. But it was nice to see this background to Mobius, because we've always wondered since season 1, what's going to be his backstory. So we finally got it within this episode. Now, Loki makes his way to Mobius, and Mobius thinks he's there for an ATV, right? So it was funny. He's like, "Yeah, I remember you," type thing. So he tries to sell him one because he's divorced, right? He has 2 now, and he's like, "I kind of don't need the other one, so you're in luck. I can give you one of them." But Loki tells him he's there for something else, and it's obviously the TVA. So Mobius is concerned as hell. Like, now he's starting to be like, kind of back away from me. Like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here, but he's getting ready to bust Loki. Like, he even picks up a wrench or something. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Obi pops through and built a temp pad. So Loki's like, "How the hell did you build that so fast?" But Obi's like, "Well, it only took me like 19 months." So just to show you how time plays, right? At this,
and he says his wife left him.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so he convinces Mobius after an exchange, right? They have a big exchange because with the temp pad, he takes him across the street, and we're a little more behind in time at this point, where he's watching basically what Loki saw from across the street, where he's picking up stuff, and then also he sees Loki there, and Loki convinces him by telling him, I can take you to any point in time. Your kids will be fine. They won't even realize you were gone. So all of that exchange from Obi's warehouse, the library or bookshop, whatever it was, to this point, very crucial to what was taking place, right? Putting into perspective where we are post episode 4, with all the questions we had. Now things are starting to make sense.
Yeah. What I really liked was, when you think about it, when Loki gives Obi the book and says this, like, he gives him a book he wrote himself, right? So you're once again continuing that circle of, like, who wrote who inspired who, the snake eating its own tail, of Obi is learning from Obi, and I don't know, I thought that was a cool continuation of that theme. Mobius having 2 jet skis, one from Bombardier.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, that just works for me. It's like he's just trying to get rid of one. He's trying to sell it to Loki, and he's like, Loki, that is not what he wants. He wants something bigger. This whole sequence, I mean, the whole conversation with Obi and Loki, that was like the perfect, like, sci-fi conversation of who, what, when, where. It's like, oh, is it why? Is it this, that? Like, when they're trying to figure out what's up with the time slipping, I was just loving it. It was just working for me. I don't know about you guys, but that scene was just hitting for me. It was probably maybe besides the ending, my favorite part of the episode, but like, so good.
Yeah.
That's the conversation. I can't say his name.
Obi.
I'm bad with names. So.
Obi.
We'll go with Obi.
He's incredible in the sense of his deadpan demeanor when confronted. The scenes in the library, in the bookstore, were so sad, right?
Yeah.
But then you hear that he is a physicist and everything. So the man is super successful, but it's not what his dream is, and it's so interesting. So that means, like, basically science is an afterthought for him. Imagination is even bigger, right? Like, that's incredible for me, and which is perfect, by the way, because it's essential for him to help guide Loki in his journey. The fact that he's a science genius, but actually knows everything about fiction as well, not just science, right? When he goes, one is why and one is who, right? I thought that was, to be honest with you, super poignant and super good. And this, him going back to see Mobius, Mobius's past was at the same time funny and cute, but a little bit sad and melancholy.
Yep.
Most likely his wife has passed away because she's gone. He didn't say she left me. He said she's gone. So he's probably a single dad, and he's trying to make ends meet. for trying to get people to buy his Lovecraft, his favorite means of transportation. But another thing you see in him, the way he discusses and talks to his children is very much how he would talk to Loki and the variants when he would chase them. Oh, don't run,
Yeah.
So who he is,
it's natural.
It's natural, even as
and it transcends in all timelines.
Yeah, it transcends in all timelines. So his essence of who Obi is, B15 has a heart of gold. She cares, right? Even if she's a soldier, she always cared. Bang, it's there. So I think that it's showing us a lot more. And by the way, I think Casey used to steal the Infinity Gems.
Yeah. Well, hold on. He was holding onto them.
Yeah, in his drawer.
They were in his desk.
He was stealing them, guys.
Yeah.
It didn't belong in his drawer.
Yeah.
He has that nature of being a thief in that area as well.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. That's so funny.
So their human nature is still there, which I think is going to be shows a lot about changing your nature, right? Can Loki change, find his glorious purpose, whatever, and he's going through these things to change. But also there's certain traits that are there. So I think that scene that with Mobius, we showed his caring father side, which was essential to what saved Loki and made him become who he was. And that scene where he picked up the wrench right before Obi came in, he clenched his fist and was about to lunge at him, guys. There's a second of lunge, and then it pulls back when he sees the body. He's like, whoa, the guy's not fucking around anymore. The guy's actually saying the truth, So that scene was just so well executed by both of them. And then Obi coming in and that 19 months thing and saying it again in his cold Obi way. Like, my wife just left me. Took me 18 months to do this. Like 18 months to develop a time pad. Like, it's nothing, by the way. Like, he was like,
oh, and what's going on?
What's going on?
like it's fine. Like, what's the worry?
Also, the time pad moving because he hasn't fully calibrated.
It's so janky.
Because it's not a fully calibrated time pad yet, so like it moves and it bounces at places.
It's janky as hell. It's so good.
But that's what I'm saying is it's those fine details that make it for me, right? And I think a lot of people, maybe they just don't appreciate it or whatever it may be, but it's just for myself, those little things really make an impact, right? Like you see him in the background. It's it's not a temp pad this big, right? He's literally
It's a VHS player.
No, it's like almost a piano, man. It's insane.
Exactly. And what's funny is that, like, he's in the background trying to navigate and control it, but it's like it's doing its thing. I really enjoy those little details. Now, Loki basically at this point now with the temp pad, and he finally convinces Mobius, right? So Mobius is like, all right, like he's on board. So Loki goes to get the band back together, right? So he goes, we end up seeing him with what's her name? B15. Yeah, like we see B15. He goes to get pretty much everybody except one person, right? He just doesn't make it to get Sylvie. Sylvie's the only one, and we see he's back at the room at the warehouse, which is Obi's warehouse, which again is very copy paste of what he has set up at the TVA. And that's where he says, pretty much everybody except for one. Now, at this point, we go back to McDonald's, right? So Loki goes back to McDonald's where Sylvie is. Now she's making her way to the vehicle, which was pretty interesting because as she's making her way to the vehicle, she places her the food bag at the back of the truck, and we see that there's the spaghettifying of the bag, right? That's exactly what ends up happening. And Loki shows up right there. Now starts to explain, like he did to everybody else when he was getting the band back together, this might shock you type thing. I mean, she's like, no, Loki, like, I know who you are type thing. And he's like, what? This is not how I thought this encounter was going to go type thing. But he almost time slipped in front of her. And then at that point, she's like, okay, let me take you for a drink. Now, I didn't see what Newbie is saying because Newbie in the chat here.
I saw it. I'm gonna have to go watch it as soon as we close the chat. Yeah,
exactly. So I didn't see that, but apparently Jonathan Majors was in the bar where they went for a drink. But before we get to anything,
better not be messing with us.
Yeah, before
did not see that.
Newbie.
before we get to seeing Loki and Sylvie at the bar, what I thought was pretty cool was the Zaniac arcade, right? It starts right there.
Yeah.
So cool Zaniac arcade machine again, showing that Zaniac also, in this timeline exists, right? And now we're into later years, as opposed to when we first met Zaniac, and he's got his own arcade game, so that was pretty cool. But in the exchange at the bar, it gets pretty intense. A lot of words were exchanged, but Sylvie basically shows a lack of interest in what Loki's proposing, right? For everything to save the TVA. And Loki pretty much calls her selfish at that point. She makes him dig deep after. She starts questioning him, right? Because he called her selfish. So she's like, what what is it that you really want in all of this? And as he's starting to speak, he's like, I want to save the TVA. I want to do this. I want to do that. You see a sad side to what he really wants, and he finally reveals that yes, he wants to save the TVA, but he wants his friends back and doesn't want to be alone. And Sylvie's like, right back to selfish we go, right? Because that's what you want, which I thought was a pretty big stinger, man. Like I thought,
this was the emotional moment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So right back to selfish, and Sylvie declines. Now, the exchange goes again. I didn't see Jonathan Majors in the bar scene, so if Newbie is spot on, I'm gonna go back to check that. But from the bar, we now cut to Sylvie going to a record shop. Now she ends up in this record shop, has a little exchange with the guy at the front, and he recommends something for her to listen to, which she takes and heads to the back of the shop to basically listen to the album. Now, someone enters the shop and immediately fades, which was like immediately I knew, okay, something's going down. Now, don't forget, also within this universe and this timeline, we saw Sylvie's food already starting to spaghettify, right? So I don't know how far out they drove and how quick, but someone enters the shop, immediately fades. The guy at the front's pouring coffee. The cup is gone. The coffee is flowing. Then it starts to do its spaghetti thing, right? Everything is starting to spaghettify within there. And basically, the entire store is spaghetti. I'm going to continue to call it spaghetti. So, Sylvie hits her tempad, and off to Loki she goes, right? And I gotta say that particular scene was so well done. How everything is starting to fade, disappear, even to the record, and like the camera was following the record and watching everything do its thing, right, as it's disintegrating or whatever you want to call it. But I thought that was very well done. I thought it was an awesome scene. But anyways, back to what I was saying. She goes to Loki. She shows up to the room where they seem to have pretty much thrown in the towel at this point, right? Like Loki was pretty much repeating what Sylvie was telling him, how like, you guys should go back to your lives, because she was saying in the exchange that, you're basically ripping these people from their lives to show them something they will never unsee type thing, and it's not going to work. There's a reason why everybody ended up at these points in time. So she shows up in that room where, like I said, everybody seems to have thrown in the towel after Loki said he's failed, but she says no one's fine. So she's had a change of heart after what she just saw, and that the branches are pretty much dying. Now at this point, the band's back together, right? They go for the tempad, all ready to do their thing, but the tempad is gone. So immediately, who are they blaming? They're blaming Casey, right? Because it's Casey, like you were saying, the thief or whatever. But he denies it, and then he turns into spaghetti. He starts to fade away, right? Then immediately after that, it was Obi, and then Mobius, and so does B-15, and then even Sylvie, man. That for me was like, oh, okay, now we're in big shit, right? So basically, the entire place is turning to spaghetti. And what did we get at that point? Well, we got Loki pretty much looking like this, right? Rightfully so. The guy is freaking out. He screams, right? He lets out that scream, and we slip again. We slip a few minutes back to when everything was starting to unfold at that point in time. So very interesting right there. But we go back to the moment where Sylvie, like right before she spaghettis, right? And then
right before she comes in, I think.
Yeah, then he's capable of time flipping again, to when Sylvie arrived, and Loki controlled time, and he even looks, I think, at Obi, and he's like, "I did it, like I did it." So what Obi was telling him, I would say a few minutes into the show when he finally meets Obi, how you should be able to control it. He was talking science, he was talking fiction, and this is what the title of this episode was. So I thought it was very fitting, makes perfect sense as to why it was called that. But he says it, to Obi, because there was a discussion of science, fiction, what, why, and everything, and he's like, no, it's about who. He's like, I understand now. So he's saying he could control it, and by doing that, he can rewrite the story. And I thought that was awesome. Back to the TVA we go, which basically is moments before the loom exploded, right? And the show ends. Like, it was just an abrupt ending. I was like, no. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know what you guys thought of all this. I absolutely thought this was a very interesting episode, and I don't know how we're gonna finish it off in episode 6.
I really, just to shout out the directors of the episode, I really thought the directing of this episode was really well done. It had a good style to it, like, especially like you were talking about that the scene in the record shop, the way it was just shot.
Yeah.
Oh wow, really got to me. It was wow. Even the whole sequence was the CG incredible, the music great. It just, and the way it just slowly panned out and whatnot. Incredible, amazing. Also, I love the fact that Sylvie ordered probably some hamburgers at McDonald's and ended up with a plate of spaghetti instead. So must have been very disappointed by that.
Shouldn't get to eat.
In some places, exactly. I think in Italy, the McDonald's serves spaghetti.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I have no clue. I've been to Italy, never been to McDonald's in Italy because that would be insulting. So
absolutely,
fair enough.
Yeah. So, but that being said, even like the way the episode's wrapping up, when Casey started like spaghettiing away, I was like, oh, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, and at first I'm like, wait, is Sylvie the problem? Is it because I heard this is happening? Like, what's going on, man? And then Sylvie faded away. I'm like, okay, whoa. And I'm sitting there, edge of my seat, like, what is going on? Yeah. Then he just turns back time. I'm like, oh my god, I'm literally just freaking out, man. I'm just freaking out on my couch, like. And the minute it ends and it cuts to the credits, and it's the music, the same music from season 1, the theme. Yep. Oh, what a beautiful wrap up! I got chills. Oh, goosebumps! Incredible. So I cannot wait for the next episode. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Comic Nation's insulting.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm not even Italian, but as a fellow Mediterranean European, I was very insulted by this.
I pretend I didn't see it. Don't worry.
They have chicken parmesan burgers in Italy, so.
Oh my god.
I can't. I'm always good for a good chicken parm. I think the conversation that Loki had with Sylvie, was incredible. To be honest with you, I think it revealed a lot about where Loki's reached and what has happened to him.
Yeah.
That's funny. I do think that it's also very telling that I think he's scared that if he doesn't have them, maybe he's not as good as he was.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's also wants to tell her how much he wants her in his life.
Yeah.
And he's still a bit scared to say that.
Yeah, he says it.
Because I think that's the moment when she spaghettifies is the moment he says no. No.
Yeah. And he gains control.
Yeah, he gains control.
Mm-hmm.
It's losing her. That's what she's trying to say. What do you want? 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 Mm-hmm. And that's the moment he doesn't say it, but the moment he loses her is the moment he says what he wants to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment and that's why Obi says it was fiction.
Yeah.
It was a matter of fiction. Because that's when he realized, bang, it's her.
Yeah.
That's my driving point, And that's why he jumped twice back and he goes, okay, I got this. I think that conversation, I think the effects and the unraveling, the spaghettifying in the music store was typical of this show. Incredible scenery, incredible effects. The scene where, we first begin to see it when the guy walks in the background, and I'm like, who's that in the background? I go, they're focusing on that, and he disappears, so everything's about to happen. But then when you see it switches to outside the store and the glass starts going, but the glass starts going outwards, kind of thing, and this towards the camera. And I'm like, okay, man, these guys know their shit. They know how to do this. Like they're getting the shit done. I think that's literally one of the best special effect scenes I've seen in the MCU.
Wow.
I thought it was up there with the. I like when effects are used for an emotional purpose. Yeah. Like I love the scene when Yelena comes back from the blip in the bathroom. Like for me, that's incredible. When Captain Marvel returns, when you hear the, like, those are the ones that I think make the most kind of poignancy. So it is very akin, I think Jer said it in the chat, to the Infinity War scene.
Yep.
And I remember one critique that we probably should have called out a little bit on our show too, and I think we did the next week, where we saw the branches being dissolved, but we never felt the branches being dissolved. And that's like something that people have said too, like, okay, so the multiverse happens, but you don't feel. This is one of the times, and they managed to do it so quickly by showing a real person drinking coffee, having a connection with Sylvie, and a sweet, just innocent conversation, and then they're gone. And I think just that quick glimpse of the unraveling, and this ain't Infinity War. They're not going to be able to snap them back, guys. This is totally different universe. They're gone. This universe, you know.
When the guy ran towards Sylvie, and his
face disappears afterwards. It was just so good. It was just, they nailed it completely, and it added the weight to the episode. Like that unraveling, the spaghettifying, and the spaghettifying of the crew, you know, was just such good work. And also, I want to go shout out this little subtle thing that they did. They create Casey as a thief. They make it seem as if Casey wants to steal the temp pad. We're at the end. They go for the temp pad. It's gone. Our first inclination of everybody in the audience, Casey took it. They turn, Casey's right there. And you're like, oh, fuck, what's happening now? It ain't Casey. This is bad. You know?
It's much worse.
Something bad's happening. Then Casey disappears. And like, oh, shit. They're not safe in this little dungeon room of Obi. This is terrible, you know? Like fettuccine. Yeah. Now they're getting a bit too much now. But like that kind of stuff, I thought was incredible. Now, I mean, where we go and how it ended, back to back, they ended us on to like cut to black, bang. You know what I mean? Like everything goes black. What's the pause? What they're gonna do? You know? So, I literally have no idea. I mean, I kind of have an idea because I saw in the trailer what Loki will do, but I don't know how it plays out. But it's definitely this experience. Now, it's funny because Loki is the only one that's going to have had this experience.
Yeah.
He's gained the insight. So I remember I was telling you guys off air how I love the fact that this show has done everything to progress the story of Loki further.
Yeah.
And they've meticulously built. I presume they have a place where they want Loki to be by the end of this and for this rest of this saga. And I think this show has done more than any I've ever seen, I think, in the Marvel Universe. I could easily say the groundwork to get them there. So I love the ending. I can't wait to see what happens. I'm just really angry that it ends. I'm angry.
Yeah, no, same. I think
I'm bitter.
What was interesting and what was even said is how, you know, Loki ends up at these places where it's unintentional, right? It's basically where his heart took him.
Yes.
So I thought that was a key right there, because now he's slipping to these points in the multiverse and timelines and everything that are going to help him to achieve what he needs to achieve, because his heart took him there. His heart is with these people. His heart is with the TVA. So I thought that was very important. But then after, when he finally gains control, we know exactly where his heart is, right? That was a lot of the story developing within this particular episode. Now, what was cool also and interesting is that everybody got spaghettified except Loki. Loki never does up until now. So we say that episode 6 will not end on a cliffhanger, right? This is what we've come to know.
Yeah.
I don't think it will happen to him in episode 6, but I'm curious as to why it's not up until now happened, right? So I hope we get some kind of an answer on that end. But all this to say, I think from episode 1 till now, I don't think I've been in this engaged and interested in a series by the MCU. And I'm talking Disney Plus series. I'm not talking
Yeah,
movies
of course.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I will say that, some of them did do that for me, but this one was just absolutely incredible. I'm also equally disappointed it's coming to end. But one thing I want to put up, and in fact, Chiapet, you shared this with us, was this right here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna read it real quick. Sorry, it says that in Loki Agents of Asgard, which I have it. Like I told you, I have it. I actually haven't fully read it, but God of Stories Loki petrifies different moments in time, saving them from the new universe. Just saying. So we're getting some of that, right?
Yeah.
This really feels like it's being taken from that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There definitely seems to be one of the things I think criticisms that's been levied for the multiverse saga, which I think a lot of it's been valid, but it's a lot of it is with the pandemic and then with the production delays and the strikes and everything. It's hard to get a rhythm for the studios to get to release it because a lot of times they've jumped around in how they release stuff too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I know that Spider-Man was supposed to happen, I think, before Doctor Strange, right? I think
Yeah.
Anthony, right?
So yeah, that was the original
like,
plan.
like there was things that were supposed to lead up to each other, but the audience needs to have this version of a Nick Fury. Nick Fury brought and Coulson brought the Avengers together, right?
Yeah.
And I think Loki, agent of the TVA instead of agent of Asgard, is going to be one of the mechanisms that we use as a narrator or as a guide to illustrate to the audience now how the gang's going to get back together.
Yep.
Whatever the gang is, whether it's be familiar people or new people, it's going to be his task to get that. And these seasons have been all about getting Loki to the place where he cares enough to get the gang together,
Yeah,
to save everything. So he's the guy that has the glorious purpose, but is he gonna want the glorious? You get what I mean? And now this is what we're doing, and I think it's so well done. And I was talking. Remember, we were talking about Newbie last week.
Yep.
And remember, compared it to Lost. Like, I adore Peacemaker. I think it's incredible, the show. I think The Boys is super fun. I mean, I think it's actually the violence takes away how good The Boys actually is. The story is actually so good that the violence is almost distracting to people, and they don't realize how good the story is. But there's certain things about shows like this, or WandaVision, or Lost, that captures the imagination in a different way. Yeah. It makes you think in a different way where things are going to go. Like, those are amazing. Don't get me wrong. Top-notch stuff. I mean, incredible stuff. But the shows that kind of have a little bit of an air of mystery and that are essential to the building blocks of the story, of the larger story, I think are a little bit different, and I think this is where we're getting here. I think it's driving the whole MCU forward, at the same time driving Loki's story forward.
Yep.
Like, it's doing both at the same time and both wonderfully.
And that's the thing, like we've said previously, is how, this series is moving the needle for the MCU, the big picture of what's happening in the MCU, and of course also for Loki. So it's really progressing on that end, which a lot of people have felt, most projects within the MCU that have dropped hasn't done that. Now, we were saying something a little before hopping on, how, people talk about the first phases, right? And how Infinity War, Endgame, we will never hit to that level. And we got like 20 movies or something prior to that, right? So now we're getting a lot of TV series, we're getting movies, which not all of them impact what's happening on the main timeline, right? So Chiapet, you brought up a good one as an example before we hopped on, which was Werewolf by Night, right? Has nothing, it doesn't move the needle anywhere close to what's happening within the main
I love it, by the way. I thought it was a masterpiece. I thought it was
absolutely amazing. I haven't watched the colored version yet.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna ask if you guys watched it. I watched it on Halloween.
Was it
I
good?
did not.
Black and white's cooler to me. The color, it's cool because they did like that 30s color grading, but it's just black and white. It hit a bit more for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But back to what I was saying is, this season and the entire series, season 1 and 2, has moved the needle. Season 1 kind of left us questioning a lot of things, and we thought we were going to get more answers, let's say within Ant-Man Quantumania, which, we got subtle things that will play out in time, but this particular season right here really moved the needle a lot, and I'm really expecting, and I will die on my hill until next week. The Marvels is dropping literally the same night, right? The pre-screenings are on the Thursday. I really have a feeling it's being done intentional, man. Something's going to happen in that movie, guaranteed. I'm calling an incursion.
Bad juju is gonna happen. That's all I'm saying. I'm sure of it. Something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah. What I wanted to say about this show is that even though it's moving the needle, it's still telling a great solo story, and that thing is what's most important. Is that it's moving the needle, and we're progressing the multiverse saga. But what's even better is that we're getting an incredible Loki story, and just an incredible Marvel story. That it just, even if this didn't move the story that much, like it's still incredible. That's what I love about it. Like for me, something doesn't have to tie into everything for it to be good. You know what I'm saying? Like you just they're making a good story.
This is
it's a double whammy
because it has a good story and it ties into everything.
It's a home run. Like that's all it is.
We would be remiss not to mention about the fact that all the groundwork is done for Kang. It introduced Kang last one, and the fact that they created Victor Timely, who again almost everybody universally fell in love with as a person. Oh, what a sweet man and everything. By the way, he coming back. By the way, he ain't gonna be the one going out in the loom to the loom.
No, it's Loki.
And if Loki survives this, Mike, I'm calling this. Let's say Loki theoretically saves the loom, right? They get a temporary stay of execution. TVA still exists, right? By the way, we didn't mention the fact that the TVA had like a protocol where it throws everybody back into their place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Except for the 2 gods, because they were never part of the thing. They were never TVA agents, and that's why Sylvie could remember him. But everybody else gets thrown back to their timeline.
Yep.
I didn't even realize it until now that we're spitballing now. That's what happens. That's why they didn't remember them.
You're right.
They get thrown back to there. That's the safe protocol where they get sent back to their lives, and they're not part of their lives because they're completely godlike and they're never agents. Yeah, which is cool.
Which is the thank you for your service type thing.
Exactly. Thank you for your service. You get back to your life. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's alive, I still maintain what I said after seeing him in episode 3. I think the dude is going to betray them, and he's going to jump to the 31st century, and that's how we're going to get a linear Kang. There's a lot of theories where people say that He Who Remains planted Nathaniel Richards in the past as Victor Timely, because I don't think Victor Timely is his real name. I think it's Nathaniel Richards the whole time. I think that's a stage name that he's using in the time because it sounds like a stage name. I think he was always called Nathaniel Richards. I think he was always born, again, sorry for comic book nerds, which I am one of them. Kang was born in the 31st century. I think they modified it here where he was born in the 19th century. I think He Who Remains is basically providing the mechanism for Nathaniel Richards to get to the 31st century, where he could develop his technology that little sphere that he had that Anthony pointed out was the time, what was it called again? Whatever, the time vortex.
The time chair.
Develops the time chair, but it's the engine that makes the time chair work.
Yeah.
I think whatever happens here, Victor's going to bolt.
Yep.
And that's when we're going to see the birth of thing. And then the irony is going to be Loki saved everything, but also brought apart the one disaster thing that he thought he was going to prevent.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the irony of the I believe of the ending. That's going to be ironic that he's going to be have his saving the universe is also dooming it to a multiversal war.
Exactly, and I think that that would explain exactly the theories we've heard up until now. How this is not going to end on a cliffhanger. They wrote it and shot it exactly how it was written.
This war right here.
Yeah. Secret Wars, baby. But I think it makes perfect sense how throughout this entire season we see Loki struggle with the TVA and try to save it. He achieves, and I think it's going to end exactly by projecting Victor Timely, like you said, and setting up the actual Kang the Conqueror for the MCU, and then keep us on our toes until. And again, the incursions will take place. I'm calling it. The incursion is going to happen in Captain Marvel.
I think I read one of the producers, Kevin Wright. Is that the producer? I think, guys. He mentioned and said, "Guys, war is still coming."
Yeah.
He keeps emphasizing this. The war is coming. I think that we're going to end up, and they have to start showing the incursions and the dissolving for people to start feeling something and the loss. Yeah. We saw the aftermath of an incursion in, I think, Doctor Strange. But I think they'll probably use, if they do a Doctor Strange 3 before, to show us more incursions, and maybe time runs out where we see multiple incursions, right? And I think we're going to use also maybe the Marvels. Maybe, and guys, we presume, like, just because
there's Deadpool 3 too, eh?
Oh yeah, but we're presuming just because we have a show like a Thunderbolts, that the tag won't be an incursion happening afterwards into the main 616 timeline. Like, theoretically, they're all going to be crashing into it, right? So at the end of that movie, once you got a great street level story, there might be more tags amping up the situation, and I think the FF will be the one that also helps the audience explain that. But I definitely think that there'll be a status quo change for the TVA after this, and Kang will be in the place where he'll be malicious. I don't think we're going to end with a nice, sweet Victor Timely. Is my take on this.
No, for sure.
I think there's going to be an evil version coming right now.
What's fun is seeing, as people roll in, Matthew Gravis. Stating that he thought it was incredible, got major Infinity War vibes, and that's exactly what we've seen in the chat a few times tonight. Hopefully Gravis, I know you and we were talking, is a friend of yours, and hopefully
he's part of the Reference Point podcast.
Exactly.
He was supposed to be on for the whole time. But we got the better half in Anthony.
Woo! Fuck you, Gravis.
Listen,
easy.
Gravis is half Italian, half Greek, so at least I get half a Greek in the chat to come help me. But you know what I mean?
That's why he's not allowed on.
That's why he's not allowed on. You don't want to get. But
we axed him.
He's actually very insightful too. I think he was a film major, right, Anthony? I think. So he would bring a lot of maybe a little bit too snotty and too. There's the excuse. But guys, we'd love to have him join us.
He's a good guy.
All I gotta say is I'm pumped now going into episode 6. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet because I'm loving the show, but at the same time now we're coming to a close. Like we said, many theories, many possibilities of where this can go. I think we're all in agreement now that we've got into episode 5, how we can foresee episode 6 taking place. There's also scenes within little sneak previews where we saw Loki pretty much guiding who I believe was maybe Mobius at the time. So maybe they go back to the first time. Remember, you have to hit the button and all that stuff. So
it sticks, he said.
Yeah, it sticks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's multiple scenes that we're going to be seeing now within episode 6. I think we're going to hop through many points in time with the new band.
Different ways. He's going to try different ways.
With the new band that's back together. Don't be surprised if we see some failed attempts where Loki now has control of slipping, right? So because of that, that's what I'm expecting to see come episode 6. So we can see some things like that, and then exactly the ending as to what you were saying, Chiapet. I can definitely foresee that, how Victor Timely ends up maybe taking off to the 31st century, and we start to see Loki saved the day, but yet ruin and doom pretty much the
I just think that they need to start showing. I mean, I thought Kang was vicious in Quantumania. I did. But I don't. I think they're gonna have to start showing a little bit more viciousness in the sense of more evilness, And I adore seeing Jonathan Majors acting, and but I just think that they're gonna have to elevate that in a sense, and I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that the surprise of him turning their back on them would be a really good gut punch. And again, I gotta say, the writers here know how to really work us as the audience. That Casey thing, dissolving Victor Timely immediately, spaghettifying him. I also think that something that we've talked about amongst us, Gravis and my brother. This is what you guys mentioned before. We have one episode left, and I'm bitter and I'm angry about it. And I hope there's a season 3 about this because I think it was amazing. But it doesn't feel like it's going to end unsatisfying. Like, I think they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun Victor Timely to an evil one. And I just think that they're going to have to elevate that in a sense. And I think that they have to progress that story to get us from a fun
Yeah.
Like I could see them resolve it. I think I saw somewhere online that before we came on that it's a 51-minute episode of actual time, 55 with the credits.
Yeah.
So we got to figure 50, 51 plus maybe there's a post credit. Who knows? So 51 minutes of showtime it's enough. It's a lot. So I'm thinking that I don't feel worried. Like when I was watching, I remember even WandaVision, which I think was top notch.
Yeah.
Even WandaVision, like how's they gonna do with everything? And you definitely felt that with other shows, but you don't feel that here. Like I have full confidence that they're gonna resolve this how it has to be. Like I guess they've honed in so much on the story of Loki that we just need a satisfying conclusion to Loki and the TVA. So that's again full control and full respect to the writers and producers of this one. They really nailed it, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're 5 for 5 for me, to be honest. And even though I think Cliff was complaining that it's too much filler, I think it was necessary filler to get because it's an emotional thing. But I guess I can't. I could see how someone could say that because it was less plot driven and more of an emotional arc on this episode.
Absolutely, I think it's definitely setting up for the big impact that's going to happen in episode 6. So 5 and 6, I understand why they're saying that 5 and 6 are definitely going to hit you. So
well, they already hit you with the spaghettifying.
Yes, for sure. But I think that the episode 5 was the jab, but the right hooks coming in episode 6, man. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, guys. That was episode 5 breakdown of Loki season 2, episode 5, Beyond Time. Guys, Chiapet doing his thing. I've had this is why it's bittersweet as well, is because I've had a lot of fun doing this with you guys. We have 1 episode left. And then after that, we're gonna do what? The Marvels. That's right. We're gonna go watch the Marvels. Hopefully on the same day, right? On the Thursday. And we'll be doing a breakdown.
Pre-taped. Well, maybe we'll do that pre-taped, or we do it live and then we put it up, or whatever we want to do.
We'll hash out those details, but keep an eye out for that. And then after that, we're gonna be on hiatus until the next fun stuff drops.
Maybe what if?
Marvel.
Maybe
what if? I hope so.
Yeah,
it has timey-wimey stuff. I know Comic Nation loves when I say timey-wimey stuff. I'm expecting him to drop in and mock me for my Mr. Rogers saying, but I don't care. You can't take Mr. Rogers out of me. I grew up with him.
There you go. But all right, guys. So thank you for swinging by. Of course, comment below. Let us know what you guys thought of the episode, because as you can see, I think we're all in agreement. We cannot wait for episode 6. I thought waiting for episode 5 was long. 6 is gonna hurt. 6 is gonna hurt.
Guys, 6 is gonna hurt because we have no idea where he's gonna come up afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I mean, none of us think that Loki dies, right? No,
absolutely not.
But 1 second, do we think anybody else goes?
We'll see. I hope it's not Sylvie. I hope it's not Sylvie.
Guys,
I think some people want to see it, but I know I don't.
Guys, don't be sure that they don't kill off somebody, and not just Casey.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if Mobius goes?
Yeah. Could be. I think if anybody's going, it's probably going to be Mobius
or Sylvie. Which one makes it back to Loki? Yeah.
Maybe Obi.
Sylvie.
Maybe Loki. Maybe Obi. Yeah, because do they want to keep him around? Are they going to be able to afford to keep him around? Does he want? Oh, he clearly wants to be around because he loves it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just curious, and because you want to get, how do you make people hate Kang?
Yeah.
Kill Mobius. I mean, I always made it. As much as I'm happy that Scott Lang, spoilers for Quantumania, but it's been like months, guys, and everybody hated it. If Kang kills Scott, oh boy, people freak out.
Yeah.
That elevates the villain, which I still think he's going to kill Hank and Janet, but that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
They're Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer are not long for the MCU. I'm just telling you guys all now.
Yeah.
They're gonna.
Surprised they made it this far.
As we said,
more than anything.
They're gonna be sleeping with the fishes very soon.
Yep. All right, guys.
Fishes. All right, guys.
That's the show. So thank you for swinging by. Of course, like I said, drop comments, hit the like button, let us know what you guys thought below, and of course, don't forget, next Thursday it is the final episode, the season finale. So definitely swing by and let's see how all of this comes to unfold. Until then, guys, we will see you next Thursday. Peace out.
Peace.